Here we are looking at a crucifixion scene, painted between 1340 and 1350. Although the artist is unknown, art historians believe it was created in the workshop of the Lorenzetti brothers in Siena. It is likely that this panel was part of a diptych or triptych, meaning it was a hinged, folding piece accompanied by one or two other panels. In the main panel of the work, we see the Virgin Mary, Mary Magdalene, and St. John at the base of the cross upon which Jesus Christ is crucified. These three figures are widely believed to have been present at the crucifixion. Behind the figures, the panel is filled with an ornate gold background, a style that is typical of religious panels and altarpieces in Siena, much like Simone Martini's Annunciation that you see here. The crucifixion panel also shares many stylistic similarities to another 14th century Sienese panel from the workshop of Sassetta. The decoration that lines the border of the center panel bears a resemblance to that of crucifixion and offers us some insight into what this piece may have looked like with other adjoining panels. Let's take a look at the scene that is taking place in this panel. The central work of most Sienese altarpieces focused on the life of the Virgin Mary. We see this over and over again throughout the Renaissance. If part of a larger altarpiece, narrative scenes from the Passion of Christ, such as the crucifixion scene, would often surround the main image in smaller panels, but very rarely as a large central scene. There are very few examples of the crucifixion being the main panel of an altarpiece in Italy during the 14th century or surrounding centuries. This leads me to believe that this piece would have been part of a larger altarpiece, or more likely a small triptych or diptych. It is also important to take the size of this panel into account. The panel is small, measuring about 19 inches in height by 8 inches in width. For comparison, the Nativity of the Virgin altarpiece that you see here on the right, painted around the same time as Crucifixion and painted by Pietro Lorenzetti, an artist of similar style, measures 72 inches by 74 inches. This is only one example, but a common theme seen throughout the 14th and 15th century. The idea of crucifixion being a part of a smaller group of panels is further reiterated by this disjointness of size. For example, if crucifixion were part of a folding triptych in which all three panels were of similar size, much like this mock-up you see here, it would have measured around 24 inches in length when unfolded, a diptych with only two panels being even smaller. In addition, many panels of the remaining art from around the time crucifixion was painted were small, portable, and hinged, allowing them to be easily folded. This panel could be moved from room to room if needed, or fit nicely in a private bedroom. This being said, where crucifixion would have been located after its creation around 1350 brings to light the devotional practices of 14th century Italians. It is difficult to place where exactly a small piece like this may have resided, because of its portability. While it may not be possible to pinpoint the exact location this panel may have hung, it is believable that this piece was used in the home or a bedroom in a monastery for private devotion, as opposed to being in a church for public devotion. It is probable that this was accompanied by at least one other panel portraying the Virgin Mary or patron saints, like what we saw in Virgin Enthroned from the workshop of Sassetta. Personal devotional panels inside the home of a Sienese citizen would have been independently commissioned. This panel has a great amount of detail and is nearly completely covered in gold. The owner of this panel had to have been of high enough wealth and status to commission such an ornate piece, instead of using less expensive materials. On the other hand, if this panel hung in the cell of a monk, it may have been part of a commission from the monastery. This was a popular practice, and monks would have private panels for devotion when they were alone in their rooms. A monk could look upon this piece during their devotion and see the crucified Son, further stimulating their meditation and the reason why they have devoted their life to this work. The panel Crucifixion may have aided in any of those functions as a small religious panel.